Twinkle, twinkle, Tabby's star dips in brightness so bizarre. Could it be we found E.T.? Nope, not yet. It's dust we see.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
What do you think of that, Matt?
I do. I really like it. I really like that as a quote. Which when I saw it tweeted, I thought we better start the show with that one.
Oh, well, we have to take our hats off to Nadia Drake.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nadia.
This is from her National Geographic piece about Tabby Star.
Tabby Star. I like that. Does it look like a cat?
No, well, there's a really interesting story about this, which I didn't really know about. I mean, I knew about Tabby Star because actually Brian Blessed was going on about Tabby Star and about it being an alien megastructure, which of course we all knew it wasn't going to be.
Exactly.
Tabby Star, why is it called Tabby Star? Because it's named after Tabitha Boyajian.
There we go.
Obviously, we've pronounced her name wrong.
I just make you say them all now. That's fine.
Tabitha Boyajian. No, I'm good. I'm good with that. So the star is informally named after her, Tabby's star. And what she did, and this is really cool, she to find out what the heck was going on with this star, because as you know, it sort of dims, but very unregularly, which is weird because stars dim because something is travelling in front of it, normally a planet or something like that. So something in orbit. So you'd expect it to be regular because orbits are regular, a bit like you when you've been eating your prunes.
That's true, my dried apricots.
This wasn't doing that, though. This was dimming, weirdly dimming. So she spent a lot of money. No, well, she raised a lot of money on a Kickstarter campaign.
100 grand.
100 grand. And therefore she was able to harness the power of a bunch of ground-based instruments to try and catch the star in the act of dimming.
The way you said harness the power then, that sounded a bit like He-Man on top of Battle Cat.
Well, she did. She held aloft her Kickstarter Sword of Grayskull.
Oh, yes.
Bob's your uncle. There we are. So 200 collaborators managed to analyse the 22 months of data, and they've written a paper about what is causing this dimming.
Enlighten me.
So it looks like it's just dust. And the reason why they think it's dust, and I might be wrong with this because this is what I heard off another podcast. They analyse the light dimming in different spectrums of light. So, you know, some at red, some at blue, some at green. And it was only some of the colours that were dimming. And this is indicative, very indicative, of small particles of dust.
Ah, okay.
So it's dust going in front of not a megastructure at all, because obviously if it was a megastructure, then you would see dimming in all wavelengths of light. But this is just the dust blocking it. They still don't know what's causing the dust, so something is releasing dust in front of the star.
I know.
Do you?
Yeah.
Go on then.
Well, I don't know if I can say or not because I'm under contract.
Okay, that's fair enough. We'll just move on and just leave our listeners.
It rhymes with Malian Degastructure.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the dust of a nearby star having its alien megastructure built around it.
All I'm saying is listen to Tom DeLonge speak from Blink 182 and he'll be with me. Matt, have you heard that yet? The Joe Rogan podcast with Tom DeLonge?
No.
Oh my God. Prepare to be highly entertained for about an hour. I'm going to send it to you. I'm not going to say much. It's amazing.
Is he a nutter as well?
Oh, like you wouldn't believe. I think he's just trying to sell books. I think he's got a book coming out. But wow, but I don't think it's an act. I'm going to send it to you. Listeners, if you've heard this podcast, please let us know what you thought of it, because my mind is still blown, and I listened to it about a month ago.
Send me a link, and I'll listen to it.
I will. So, Matt, what else has been going on?
So I noticed a really, really cool thing in the news, and it was about this a book that was written in 1968.
Okay.
Yeah, that was basically trying to work out what the world would look like in 2018.
Interesting.
Towards 2018 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Toward the year 2018 was the name of the book. It's basically trying to predict what 2018 was going to be like 50 years ago, right?
Wow.
There was an amazing prediction about global warming. This is Thomas Malone, who predicted that large-scale climate modification will be affected inadvertently from rising levels of carbon dioxide. Such global warming might require the creation of an international climate body with policing powers, an undertaking that should be as non-political as possible.
Tick. Wow, he's got that one bang on.
I mean, literally, couldn't got more bang on. But get this, Gordon F. MacDonald, who's also advocates climate change, an early advocate of it, he writes a chapter on space that bear in mind, this is 1968. This is when Apollo 8, we're talking about, oh my God, men are going to the moon year. This is the year of like space exploration. He says that we'll abandon manned interplanetary travel, and because the Apollo missions will have exhausted their political usefulness, and that weather and communication satellites would then become the big thing, and a global communication system would permit the use of giant computer complexes, noting the revolutionary potential of a data bank that we could be queried at any time. So
that is amazing. That's amazing. Because there's no way. I mean, in 1968 you could predict global warming, of course, but that is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so he's predicted, that we'll shrug off manned space travel, and that satellites and all that will help us with the internet. The internet. I mean, bear in mind, this is before the internet, for goodness sake. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
That's pretty insane. I mean, that's not really like a horoscope. That's pretty bang on.
Pretty bang on, isn't it? So the real bad thing, the real heartbreaking news this week was the death of John Young.
Yes, awful. Very sad indeed. What a complete legend, as we will find out.
Yeah, so, I mean, that is a sad milestone. So that means there's less than half of the Apollo moonwalkers still alive, which
very sad.
Actually means
good age, though, Matt. Good age, 87.
Great age. And, of course, the super sadness is that we'll never have him on the Interplanetary podcast.
I know, it's a real shame. Real shame.
Yeah, that is a real shame. Something else that happened this week, which was absolutely amazing, was the Japanese astronaut Kanai, who's gone to the International Space Station, claiming on a tweet that he'd grown 9 centimetres.
Oh.
So he sort of said, "Oh my God, I've grown 9 centimetres in 3 weeks." And
it's not a euphemism, is it, Matt?
No, don't think it.
Because I won't have any of them on my show.
No, so he'd grown 9 centimetres in height from the top of his head to the bottom of his heels, Jamie. And he was really worried because that makes him now too tall to get into a Soyuz, which means he can't get home.
Oh, what?
So
I wish I had the problem of 9 centimetres extra height.
Well, but maybe you can go up, but that's a reason to go into space, isn't it? There you go.
I might just do that.
Yeah, but so anyway, this tweet got international attention. It was on the BBC Science section, and people at work were coming up to me and go, "Oh, have you heard about this Japanese astronaut?" And I was getting really excited. "Oh, we're definitely talking about that." But even better was that the next day he tweeted and went, "No, actually, we didn't measure it correctly, and I've only grown 2 centimetres."
Oh God!
And another spokesman said no. He definitely thought he had grown 9 centimetres, but and he wasn't sort of making it up. He genuinely was worried he couldn't get home.
Well, listen, Matt, we all mistake centimetres with inches when measuring ourselves. I mean, I do it regularly.
But that would be understandable if he kind of just said, "Oh no, I meant 9 centimetres and not 2 inches or something." But it wasn't.
Put it up on my Tinder profile.
Yeah, okay. But it doesn't really. It doesn't give me much faith in all these experiments that they're doing up on the International Space Station. Oh, actually, talking about the International Space Station.
That's really true. I mean, that's quite a big mistake to make before you tweet it out, isn't it?
Yeah.
After you tweet it out, rather.
But talking about the International Space Station, Michael Foale's been talking about the International Space Station, and actually,
I heard him on the radio.
Yeah, and actually, he actually said that on our podcast a few weeks ago, didn't he? That we recorded.
Yeah, can everyone else just kind of get with the? I mean, we did this months ago.
We did it. We actually genuinely covered that story months ago. But it's just picking. Good for Michael Foale. He's very worried that the International Space Station will be allowed to just burn up in the atmosphere and be destroyed because there'll be no more money to run it. And he doesn't think that commercial companies are going to be able to do this. So he's dreading this, basically what he considers one of the greatest achievements of mankind coming to an end, because we're going to be building the deep space gateway, and there just isn't money to do both.
That's very true. That is very true. He was also pressed about whether he thinks there's life out there. And he said, well, there's so many stars and so many planets that I don't see how there can't be.
Did he refuse to answer any of their questions?
He didn't, but I think that they just cut it out, whereas we're bold hacks.
Bold hacks.
We keep that stuff in,
So go back and listen to that episode. It's well worth listening to Mike Foale interview, because actually it contains quite a lot. I got a lot out of listening to it again and again and again while editing it. So it's a good one. Did you?
And as everybody knows, Matt, now it's 2018. We've made our peace with Foale, haven't we?
Well, you've definitely.
We're just much more peaceful men.
Definitely. Did you?
I'm much more zen.
Did you see the video on the internet? The video with the mirror being made for the giant Magellan telescope, the GMTO.
How nuts is that?
Oh my God! It's unbelievable. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And
the glass arcs that will let astronomers peer back millions of years are decades in the making.
Oh my God, yeah, a decade to make this giant mirror. It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's so cool. So
How rad's that?
Go and watch that video of the mirrors being ground down for the GMT. Unbelievable.
That makes me really happy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's building something that will unveil so much.
But it's beautiful to watch, isn't it? It's beautiful to watch all those chunks of glass melting and becoming a kind of swimming pool of molten glass on the top of this disc. Oh my God, it's incredible.
Matt, what's your favourite song with the word glass in it?
Heart of Glass by Blondie.
I knew you'd say that.
Oh, come on.
I don't think I can name another. Is my point.
Oh, actually, yes. No, I do. My actual
what about Annie Lennox?
Go on then, what's that one?
Walking on Broken Glass.
Yeah, that's quite a good one.
Although I don't know if that's the title.
Now, what about Gentle Giant in a Glass House?
Anyway, we digress. Sorry. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, but I like a little bit of music coming in. So,
yeah.
Who's our astronaut of the week, Jamie?
Well, obviously, John Watts Young.
Do you know what? Obviously. Do you know what? John Young is not only astronaut of the week, he might be astronaut of the age.
Absolutely.
Genuinely, if you were a kid, you want to be an astronaut. If you're an astronaut, you want to be John Young.
It's time for Astronaut of the Week.
Born in San Francisco, California in September 1930, a day after Ray Charles, one of my personal favourites. So cool.
So, yeah, in the year of sliced bread. And who else do you think was born in 1930?
All right, this is ridiculous. Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, Mike Collins, and 10 more astronauts.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. At 18 months old, he moved to Georgia and then to Orlando in Florida.
Yep, and in 1952, he got his Bachelor of Science degree in Aeronautical Engineering from the unfortunately titled GIT, the Georgia Institute of Technology.
Absolutely. So, looking at service, in 1952, Young joined Nash Naval Reserve Officers Training Corps. He became a fire officer on the Fletcher-class destroyer warship, USS Laws, and did a tour of duty in the Korean War.
Yeah, and then he became a Navy helicopter pilot joined a fighter squadron flying planes, including the F-9 Swept-Wing Cougar.
Oh, yes.
And one of my favourites, the F-8 Crusader. I used to have an Airfix model of the Crusader. It's a beautiful, beautiful...
Such a nerd.
And it used to fly off the supercarrier, which was at the time the first ship to support jet aircraft, the supercarrier USS Forrestal.
Beautiful. So Young went on to become a test pilot, flying planes like the Crusader II and the F-4 Phantom II, where he held several records for time to climb.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep. And fellow astronaut and former NASA boss Charles Bolden describes Young as simply awesome, and that he was one of the best pilots he'd ever met, and that most people get into a plane, but John Young wears his plane.
Imagine that quote against you.
Yeah, he just wears the plane. It's like it's part of his clothing.
Do you think people say that Jamie Franklin wears podcasts?
Oh, absolutely.
Because, you know...
Well, you do.
I think they should.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm reading John Young's autobiography because I'm so amazed by it. It's called Forever Young, which I think is quite...
Oh, yes.
But yeah, when you hear about his flying days, it's just amazing that he's still alive.
Is it a Bob Dylan song, Forever Young? I think it is, but did he do it
Forever
first?
Forever Young.
I want to be forever young. No, that wasn't him, was it?
I don't know. No,
I don't know.
But
anyway, so
you made me
John
look like
Young
a fuel
joined... John Young joined NASA in 1962 as part of Astronaut Group 2, along with the likes of Neil Armstrong and James Lovell, and was the first of that group to fly into space in Gemini 3.
So he beat Neil Armstrong into space. That's how cool he was. Oh my God.
Absolutely cool. Famously costing the US taxpayer millions of dollars, or so they said, by smuggling a corned beef sandwich onto the spacecraft and disturbing their test of space food.
After Gemini 3, he commanded Gemini 10 in 1966 with his pilot Michael Collins, famously of Apollo 11, of course. And Michael Collins went on to perform some spacewalks. And in that mission, they performed a rendezvous with the two Agena target vehicles.
Beautiful. Young went on then to command Apollo 10, which will be heading for its 50th anniversary next year, joining two other space legends, Thomas P. Stafford and, of course, one of our favourites, Gene Cernan. They set off on a dress rehearsal for the actual moon landings, and this time Young was the first person to pilot an Apollo spacecraft around the moon on his own, about 8 miles from the lunar surface.
And they returned to Earth in the capsule that's now at the London Science Museum, reaching a speed of 24,791 miles an hour on May the 26th, and that is the fastest manned vehicle of all time. So come to London and see that in the Science Museum. Fastest manned vehicle of all time. John Young has been inside it, and every time I'm going to go there and look at it and go, John Young's been inside that.
You know, the picture of him on his spacewalk, I just couldn't stop looking at it. There's so many beautiful photos, but that for me topped it.
Oh, man, it's just...
So, going on from there, the support crew for the mission included Bruce McCandless, who passed away only 2 weeks before Young.
Yeah, so we had...
As we mentioned.
Yeah, as we mentioned. So, that was a bit of a coincidence. So, Young was slated for Apollo 13 as the backup commander. But after the failure of that mission, I think they sort of switched things around and rotated stuff, and he became then the commander of Apollo 16. And while waiting for that mission, he had to study very hard in geology, like they all did at that point, because there had to be a kind of scientific reason for going to the moon. So
absolutely, get studying. So at the moon, there was a problem once with the service module, and Gyro 2 would make the service module vibrate excessively. However, after 6 hours of tests and analysis, Houston decided that they had found a workaround, and they were able to continue the mission.
Wow, that in the book it is just feels terrifying.
God, can you imagine?
Ken Mattingly. I cannot believe what nerves of steel he's got, and they're both they're looking. I think Ken Mattingly's looking out the window, and he's telling them that their legs have deployed properly. But then every time he's trying to do stuff, he's like wobbling around, and then they know this is a bit of a disaster because if stuff's wrong, they won't be able to sort of mate up again and go back to Earth. So that it's a big problem. So they were all quite terrified, but they also in this position of they don't want to go back and do an Apollo 13 where they've just gone somewhere and not even had a problem and had to come back. It's a bit of a nightmare.
Nerves of steel.
So while they were at the moon, Young actually stood on the moon this time. So he's piloted and he's been a moonwalker as well. So Charles Duke and Young took 3 moonwalks up in the Descartes Highlands.
I'm glad they got old Brer Rabbit here back in the briar patch where he belongs.
Do you know what? I love that quote. I'm not even quite sure what it means, but I think it's... I used to actually read old Brer Rabbit books as a kid, and
Did you?
Yeah, it's an American thing, and it's got quite a lot of. I think there's a lot of significance in the South of America. I don't know, but I think so. I think it's like a proper, real big children's book, like Straw Peter, I guess, over here, and it's like.
I'm not getting any of these references. I'm just not in your generation, man.
Oh yeah, thanks.
You know,
yeah, but
I'm hungry caterpillar generation,
like George Bush. So yeah, back in the briar patch, but I think it's about like old Brer Rabbit tricks the fox into sort of releasing him back into the briar patch by saying, "Oh, I'll tell you what, if you could do anything to me, you can eat me, boil me, whatever, as long as you don't put me back in the briar patch." So the fox puts him back in the briar patch and goes, "Ah," and he goes, "Ah," like that, tricked you.
The old sly devil, eh?
Yeah. So Young was the backup commander for Gene Cernan on Apollo 17 after Dick Slayton had sacked the Apollo 15 crew for taking stamps on their journey.
Incredible stuff. It goes on to say, Charlie Duke recalled, I found out from the flight surgeon that my heartbeat was 144. John's was 70. John saying, yeah, well, I told him, I said mine is too old to go any faster. Brilliant.
So, yeah, and I think just Duke sort of said, we all know what the truth was. John was 70 because he was a stoic badass who didn't seem to get rattled much by anything.
Yeah, that's amazing. Young then became chief of the Astronaut office after the retirement of the first American in space, Alan Shepard, in 1974.
Whoa. And on the 12th of April, 1981, and this is the big one for me, 20 years exactly after Yuri Gagarin's first ever space flight, John Young commanded and Robert Crippen piloted the very first space shuttle mission, STS-1. Can you believe that? I cannot believe how brave you have to be to do that. It's the only mission ever of a maiden test flight of a USA spacecraft to carry crew ever. So it's complete.
It's like there's a good chance you'll die, but
yeah, I mean it's crazy. I mean I think that's why people were even thinking about doing SLS. EM1 as a crewed mission. Presumably, we're thinking back to STS-1. But I mean, it's amazing. Even the Russian with their Buran was automated. So obviously, the technology existed to do an automated flight.
Yeah.
The weird thing is that Young apparently was completely obsessed with safety. He was absolutely committed to safety, but had very, very kind of little regard for his own safety. It would seem.
Absolutely.
So, so one of the things that they had, which I didn't know about in the space shuttle, as ejector seats, they borrowed the ejector seats from the SR-71 Blackbird, my favourite plane. But not only that, but that's like a sort of. If that came to that of using the ejector seats, and you've got all these things like rocket boosters and solid and the fuel tanks everywhere. And they get blown up by like ground control. They will blow them up so that they don't fall down on everyone. So if you eject, you've somehow got to be really fluky and get out of the way of all that exploding stuff. So it must be, and plus the fact you're in a spacesuit, so pulling the ejector cord and all those kind of things must be really, really difficult. And don't even mention the HRSI tiles, which were the tiles on the space shuttle that had never really been tested, and there was loads and loads of problems even before it ever flew, with them coming off or being stressed or smashing, and or even coming off in like a kind of zip of them. And of course, if any of the heat tiles are missing, it's game over. As unfortunately the shuttle found out much later on in its career.
It really did. So Matt, who do you think was watching from Red Sector A?
I know who was watching from Red Sector A.
It's only Canadian band Rush, who would later go on to write the song Countdown, featuring dialogue from Young and Crippen.
All about that launch, yeah. So Red Sector A is also a Rush song on the next album. But it's what's quite funny is it started I posted that on Facebook, and a lot of Rush fans don't really like the song Count. I mean, Signals, the album it's off, is brilliant, and Countdown I don't think is one of the stronger songs on there. So it's not a Rush favourite. But do you know what? I quite like it. I think it's just because it's about the space shuttle on STS-1. But my
how long is the bass and drum solo in it?
Do you know what's really weird? It's kind of got a keyboard solo, which Rush aren't particularly famous for. But there is a fantastic song with transmissions from STS-1, and that is "Hello Earth" by Kate Bush, which is on the ninth wave. As she's lying in the water, she's looking up at the night sky and all the stars, and she imagines herself as a space shuttle coming over the ocean, looking down at the sea with the stars reflecting back up. And she can see all of America and the coast and the weather moving around. How cool is that as an image?
It's just incredible. I think, other than my mum, she's my favourite female ever. Sorry, sisters. I don't. You're obviously included. But Matt, one thing we both agree on is that that's our favourite gig we've ever been to.
Favourite gig we've ever been to, and she played that song. So we've had
my God,
Young and Crippen at our favourite ever concert.
It's just incredible.
Amazing. So,
wow.
Who didn't attend?
I think it's Reagan.
Yeah, he didn't attend because he'd got shot a couple of weeks before in an assassination attempt.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so what's really weird is it's bringing a whole heap of memories back to me about that era. I was very young, but I obviously remember Reagan getting shot, and I remember STS-1 as well. But wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So on board Columbia was a couple of extravehicular mobility units, EMUs, which are essentially big spacesuits, for Young and Crippen. In the event they have to go out and do a spacewalk to fix stuff. So Crippen would have been the one that goes out, and Young would have been the person going back out after him if he needed help as well. So they were expecting maybe that there was stuff broken on the space shuttle. And what's a really weird one is that they had to fly around. They had to fly around and have a secret satellite take pictures of the underside to make sure that it wasn't damaged, and they didn't even know why they were doing those manoeuvres.
Really?
That's how secret that satellite was.
Covert?
Yeah. Well, they didn't know. They weren't allowed to know about that satellite, and only sort of a few key NASA members were. So they did this kind of manoeuvring. It's like, well, I don't know what that's about, and it was so this satellite could take a picture of their tiles to make sure they were intact.
Jeez Louise. Yeah. This mission orbited at about the height of the space station, but originally had been slated as a test run of the return to launch site, the RTLS, abort scenario. But was seen as being extremely dangerous, and as a consequence, John Young overruled the proposal. He said, "Let's not practice Russian roulette, because you may have a loaded gun there." And STS-1 went ahead as the first orbital mission.
Yeah, so it's like practicing a manoeuvre that's essentially really, really dangerous is probably a bad idea, and he was right.
Yeah, agreed.
And so that flew up from Pad 39A, and of course the big excitement at the moment is where?
FH.
The Falcon Heavy, Pad 39A.
So cool.
But that Gagarin timing, 20 years after, was actually a bit of a coincidence, because actually the flight was supposed to take place 2 days before, but there'd been a bit of a computer glitch.
Really? Mm-hmm. So the STS-1 orbiter, Columbia, also holds the record for the amount of time spent in the orbiter processing facility before launch. 610 days.
Almost 2 years.
The time needed for the replacement of its heat shields tiles.
Yeah, but so that's pretty much the writing is already on the wall for the shuttle there, because it's like basically
It's on the tiles.
Yeah, well, no, it's basically saying the only way that the shuttle was ever going to be cheap was if you could turn around the orbiter really, really quickly.
Turn around,
orbiter, and go back into space. But
beautiful.
Yeah, so even Elon Musk, he has to speed up this turnaround of the of the Falcon to make it cost effective. So
Yes.
yeah. So
Matt,
Yeah.
Young landed the orbiter and said, in jest, "Do I have to take it back to the hangar?"
and after waiting 45 minutes inside, he got off and kicked the tyres, apparently, in celebration. He was whooping and going, woo, woo, and then he got out and kicked the tyres. And
Imagine if he'd broken his foot.
Or the tyres had burst, bearing in mind there's something like 500
they're PSI. I was going to say they're probably quite expensive as well. But you know what? I don't blame him.
Yes. So there's a few weird things about this mission. The amount of noise and vibration produced by the shuttle almost destroyed the craft when it took off. So,
really?
Yeah, they had to upgrade all that water that pumps in. If they'd known about some of the damage that happened at takeoff, Young said that he would have flown the shuttle to a safe altitude and ejected, which would have meant that Columbia was lost on its maiden voyage.
Oh, God, yeah.
And a really weird one that I didn't know about was 3 people died in a nitrogen atmosphere accident. I think that they vented off some nitrogen. And, of course, people wandering into a nitrogen-rich atmosphere don't realise that they're suffocating to death. And so these 3 people just passed out. 2 other people went over to help them. They passed out, but their unconscious bodies were seen by other people, and most of them were saved, apart from 2 of them died pretty much died that week, and the other one died much later from the injuries caused by it. I mean, horrendous or what?
Very, very sad. So Columbia went on to fly the next 4 shuttle missions.
Yeah, and then Young flew again in 1983, the 6th mission of Columbia on STS-9, and that was the first of the European Space Lab missions, and it had Ulf Merbold on board. He was the
yes.
But he was the only astronaut that we didn't end up speaking to, did we? We were looking for him for ages, and we ended up.
We saw him give a speech, didn't we?
Yeah.
That was about as close as we got.
So that was his record 6th space flight. No one had flown.
We'll get to you, Ulf.
Yeah, we'll get you, Ulf. That was the record 6th space flight. So that was the 6th time he'd been up in space, much more than anyone else. So he was supposed to fly again on STS-61 to deploy the Hubble Space Telescope. So imagine if he'd done that one as well. But the Challenger disaster basically meant that he never flew again because his turn didn't come round again. So Alan Bean describes Young like this. He says, Young was the best engineer and the best test pilot of all the astronauts of the early space age. Without question, he was the most important astronaut of the space shuttle era. He was the best ever chief of the astronaut office in Houston. Nobody matched him.
That is incredible. And one here, quote from Glyn S. Lunny. As the only astronaut to fly the Gemini, Apollo and space shuttle ships, John's passion for safety was the signature emphasis, even obsession, of his career.
Yeah, oh my.
Wow.
So just to put it all into perspective, he's logged 15,275 hours flying props, jets, helicopters and rocket jets, more than 9,200 hours in the T-38 and 835 hours in spacecraft during 6 space flights. So he's had 6 space flights. How many launches has he had?
Oh, I don't know.
He's had 7 launches.
7?
6 off Earth, 1 off the moon. How about that?
What a life.
Yeah, on January the 5th, he died from complications from pneumonia at the age of 87.
Well, rest in peace, sir. Wow.
Godspeed, John Young.
My goodness. Yeah, so your your homework, people, is to get onto YouTube, have a little research of John's bits and pieces, and definitely check out some images of his spacewalks, because
check out his speeches.
Incredible.
Check out his speeches. His speeches are absolutely incredible. They're amazing. So any interview with John Young is absolutely incredible. He really is the astronaut's astronaut, the most experienced astronaut of all time. So wow, there you go.
Absolutely incredible. Matt.
So I've got so many questions, Jamie. But who should we ask these questions of?
Well, Matt, I don't know if we can speak to him because I know how much of a busy guy he is, but the only person I'd like to ask is Eric Berger.
The Interplanetary Podcast, putting the ace back into space.
Guys, we are joined now by a very special guest, senior space editor at ArsTechnica with a degree in astronomy, meteorology and journalism. It's the one and only Eric Berger. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
We're good. Thank you so much for joining us. We wanted to get you on the show for a while now, and it seems a good time because I saw your tweet not long ago about some bits and pieces that you were looking forward to in 2018. So what's number one for you? Where do you get goosebumps thinking about something that's going to happen this year?
Well, there's a lot that could happen in 2018, and there's, a lot that we kind of hope that will happen in 2018, but we're not sure. But I think certainly the highlight of the first half of the year is probably going to be the Falcon Heavy launch. And that's simply because, we've been waiting for this for 4 years, 5 years. It's been a long time.
If you were a gambling man, what date do you think that's going to be? I know we've still got to wait for the static test, but
if I had to put money, I'd put money on about February 14th. So middle of February.
Oh, that's looking more hopeful for a transatlantic journey. That's good. That's good news for us.
Are you guys trying to make it over for that?
We're desperate to come out. Yeah, we're desperate to come out. We'll see if our normal mental lives will allow it. But very exciting. I mean, what would you say about that launch is the thing that excites you the most, other than the obvious? Is there any kind of implications that blow you away thinking about that?
I just really think it's the idea that there's a private company in the United States that, essentially saw a business market in self-funding, a heavy lift launch vehicle, for entirely commercial purposes. And certainly that's something we've never seen, anywhere in the world. These have been the province of, large countries and national space agencies. And now there's a private company that says, we think there's a market for, 50-ton launch vehicle. We're going to leverage our commercial contracts with NASA to build this. And they did it. And it's now ready to fly. And so I think once it's flying, it'll make a pretty profound statement kind of about where the future of the industry is going. And especially, the launch is going to be pretty spectacular, hopefully. Elon has promised, a show one way or the other. But I think the landing, has the potential to be equally exciting because, they're going to have the central core come back, I think, to a drone ship. But then the two side-mounted boosters are going to make a coordinated land at the landing zone. And so, that's going to be pretty amazing to see as well. And I think it's going to basically send a message about, that big rockets and reusability, that this is the future.
I mean, it's absolutely incredible what he's done, really, isn't it? I mean, the whole thought of showing off that kind of reusability. And I'm right in saying, aren't I, that Falcon Heavy will be the most powerful launch vehicle since Saturn V. Is that right?
The shuttle was more powerful, but it would be twice as powerful as the Delta IV Heavy, which is the most powerful rocket flying today.
In terms of what's just happened with Zuma, I just want to quickly quiz you about that. Will that have any effect on SpaceX? This Zuma not actually making it into orbit, or do you think they're going to get off with that one scot-free?
That is remain to be determined. There's a lot of subterfuge going on there. I will just say that with respect to Zuma, it came from a pretty good source on Monday to me that there had been a problem. That basically the payload had come back to Earth, the second stage of the Falcon 9 rocket. My initial reaction that's really bad for SpaceX. But, apparently this is all supposition, because you can't even get confirmation officially that there were briefings to people in Congress about this on Monday, although I have pretty good information that there were. But if that was the Northrop Grumman adapter that failed, or that it didn't separate, then I think SpaceX is getting off scot-free. Certainly, they're acting like it. There's no sign of an investigation like we had with their last two accidents with the with the upper stage problems. They came out pretty soon afterward and announced an investigation and talked about what was going on. And now this is classified, so that's different. But they are, they're pressing ahead with their commercial launches this month, and the Falcon Heavy launch, at the end of the month, early in February. So at this point, it's hard to see too much of an impact. I think down the road, the real question is whether this affects their military business, and so we'll see in future contract awards whether the United Launch Alliance, starts winning more of those head-to-head in SpaceX, or SpaceX keeps getting those.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really... At first, I thought, oh, no, that's a really stinky start to the year for SpaceX. After they had a pretty terrible 2016 and then had an absolutely bang-out 2017, it seemed like, oh, no, that's they're going to have that's not a good start. And it, particularly if Falcon Heavy blows up and takes out 39 as well, that'd be pretty awful.
Well, they've been really unequivocal in their statements. Even the statement they released on Monday, and then Glenn Shotwell's statement on Tuesday, again, sort of was that, look, there was no problem with our rocket, yada, yada, yada. But my understanding is that there is a pretty aggressive blame game being played out, sort of within Congress and the military about what actually happened. And I think, assuming, because there's been no official confirmation, but assuming that whatever Zuma was, that it did fail, there will be an investigation. Ultimately, the U.S. government, will make a determination. But boy, there's a lot of belief that this is just clandestine activity, that this was really some kind of launch to monitor North Korea or their nuclear activities, and they're sort of putting this story out there to mask the fact that this satellite really is up there. So who knows, guys?
Yeah, I did see a lot
Eric,
of that.
One thing I wanted to ask you was about your website. Now, if anyone, certainly, online you've got a large following. Anyone who doesn't follow you or hasn't been to the website, can you talk a little bit about the website?
Yeah, so I write for what was originally a technology website called ArsTechnica, which was bought by Condé Nast about a decade ago, and they've kind of it's basically tech. It was tech news for grown-ups, basically. Sure. And a few years ago, they started expanding their science coverage, and then they came to me in 2015 and said, we'd really like someone to cover space full time, and so they hired me away from a newspaper I was working at here in Houston and said, go cover space. And so, it's great. You get to work out of a home office, get to write about whatever kind of captures my fancy, and it's really been a great opportunity. It's ArsTechnica, ArsTechnica.com.
And I know I speak on behalf of myself and Matt when we say you have to check it out. It's incredible, and we definitely have been going there to see sections of what we should be talking about on this podcast, right, Matt?
It is definitely one of the go-to. It's one of our go-to pages all the time. It's the top of my little feedly list. Is the Eric Berger feed? It's fantastic. I mean, it's
great stuff.
You've always got a really You've always hit it pretty much on the money with the with your angle on things. So thanks very much. You're a good inspiration for our podcast. Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, there's the way I look at it is you try to keep things real, and what's real isn't always kind of the happiest news. I mean, there's lots of positive developments in spaceflight, but there's lots of kind of, downers or negative stuff too. And so,
Talking of downers, we just spent a long section of our podcast, this podcast, talking about John Young. Obviously, very sad. Rest in peace. 87. But you looking back, what does his legacy mean to you?
It's just amazing to me, the breadth of his career. If you think about the fact that his first space flight was in the cockpit alongside, Gus Grissom, who was this legendary figure who made the second flight in space, had to be, horse collared out of, he almost drowned after his Mercury flight. He did the first, Gemini flight and then died in the Apollo 1 fire. And then to think that sort of his career went from there to the moon, walking on the moon, to flying the first space shuttle mission, then being a mentor to a lot of the, the younger astronauts that some of whom are still flying today. One of the things about being in Houston is this is where a lot of the Apollo, the key Apollo figures, retired. And so I've been reporting on space in depth for about a decade now. And so one of the things that, I've gotten to do is get to know a lot of the flight directors, the flight controllers, the engineers, and the astronauts who participated in the Apollo program. And they are in their 80s and 90s now. And they are starting to go. And actually, the 50th anniversary of Apollo is coming up, Apollo 11 in 2019. And we're doing this big series, it's called The Greatest Leap, that's kind of looking at those missions from the Apollo 1 fire through the end of the Apollo program. And I made a conscious decision to do those interviews in May of last year, simply because some of the key figures, we did, hour and a half long video interviews. Some of the key figures are passing away. We're losing them all the time. And so it's, in that sense, Young's passing is kind of, something we're dealing with every day down here.
Absolutely. And whilst it's very sad, looking back at what they've accomplished in their careers is just so inspiring. And we hope that anyone else listening or researching what he's done in his life is just, you can't get much more colourful than that.
Because I noticed that often you're not the most optimistic about SpaceX or Boeing and their human spaceflight this year. And I wonder, do you think that John Young would have been a bit disappointed, really, that he didn't see, American human launch vehicles for the last, been a long while, hasn't it? And so what do you think are the chances of SpaceX and Boeing getting this working this year? Because that's got to be one of the exciting things for this year.
Yeah, I don't know how John Young felt about that. I know that a lot of the Apollo people that you talk to find it hard to believe that, after they worked so hard to win the space race in the 1960s, 40 years later, 45 years later, we're relying on the people the United States vanquished to get into space. It's a good question. I have some pretty good sources who I can't give up, but there is some real doubt about whether the human, those spacecraft are going to be ready to go this year, whether NASA is going to give the rockets and the spacecraft clearance to go into space this year. I have, seen some internal timelines at NASA that suggest that the first human flights could occur in December of this year for planning purposes. I would say this. You would expect, the crews to actually be named for the first Starliner and the first Crew Dragon flights to be named 12 to 18 months before those first flights. And we don't have any, announcements of those. There's the 4 commercial crew astronauts, but then you would get 2 of them assigned to a vehicle, and we haven't seen that yet. I would rate the chance of I would be optimistic, or I would be hopeful that we would see the demo flights this year. So the flights without people up to the space station, before the end of the year, and then look for crew flights in early 2019. I think the chance of seeing crew flights this year is probably significantly less than 50%.
And with that in mind, we've got the crazy trip around the moon, which I'm assuming is a complete non-starter.
If you think about it, that was just such an audacious announcement that almost from the beginning, you looked at it and said no way. Did he announce it in 2016? Is that when
Yeah,
they
I think
announced
it was.
it? I mean,
it was near the end of 2016, wasn't it? Yeah. Or maybe
that's
the
right.
beginning of 2017, yeah.
It was about the time that NASA, I think that was political. Now, it was early 2017. It was about the time that NASA was looking at maybe putting people on the first exploration mission, like EM1. And Elon kind of got tweaked about the timing of that. So I think he kind of rushed that out there for political reasons, basically to show the Trump administration that, look, we can do this too. You don't need to pay all that money for SLS and Orion when we could do this kind of flight too. Same flight profile. Listen, I mean, that's basically talking about doing something like Apollo 8, although I don't know that they would go into lunar orbit like Apollo 8 did. Apollo 8 was just such an amazing mission. And the idea that, SpaceX, when it's still focusing and trying to meet NASA's requirements for a crew mission into low Earth orbit, would then, within a matter of months or a year, sort of take that leap into deep space. I mean, God, I'd love to see it, but it just seems like it's a huge step. I mean, that's a mission I don't really see happening for 5 years.
Well,
Me and Matt, we're still waiting for our invite.
Are you guys the guys that bought the tickets? By the way, you seem
Oh
interested
well,
in
we don't
timing
want to
of it.
say anything, but
the fact that it's gone so quiet on that front is pretty telling, isn't it? And
It should tell you.
yeah, and
Matt, how many Patreon donations would we need for that trip?
yeah, we're almost
Just a
there.
few more,
Or
right?
maybe I think it's orders of
Hey, Eric,
just a few orders.
Eric,
of
let me ask you this: if tomorrow I could send you for a week's vacation to live in either a lava tube on the moon or a lava tube on Mars, which would you pick?
Well, I mean, do I get to come back? That's the first
You
question.
get to come back after a week, no problem.
Okay, well, I mean, you got to go to Mars because no one's ever been there before.
That's very true. It's very
But
true.
you're
okay with the long. You're okay with the long flight.
You said I get to come back. That's
true.
The question.
That's
we
true.
can get people to Mars. The question is, can we get them back?
That is true.
I mean, I'd love to go to both places. I'd love to go into space. I'm hoping for my retirement I can afford a ride on New Shepard.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, do you think I've often annoyed Matt by saying that when I'm 76, I think I'll be able to legitimately afford a flight into space. I think I'll be able to do it by then. Do you think it's realistic to say that when we get to that kind of age that it will just be as much as an EasyJet flight is now?
I don't think it'll be an EasyJet flight.
Yeah, maybe a bit more.
I'm pretty optimistic on Blue Origin and the New Shepard system because they've now flown I think 7 times successfully with their system, which is still experimental, and each of the flights has looked pretty smooth from an outsider's perspective. So they've demonstrated that they have a pretty good system. You can put 6 people on that spacecraft and get into space and come back pretty quickly. I think that, certainly people probably will fly on that spacecraft by the end of the year or early 2019. I would bet that they fly on that before commercial crew happens. And then, you're probably looking at a $250,000 ticket, something on that order to fly on New Shepard. Hopefully that price comes down eventually. God bless Elon and God bless Jeff Bezos, because those 2 guys, and along with Virgin and some other places, are really trying to push the envelope on this. I mean, you look at the national space agencies, and I'm not going to bag on NASA, but they launch a few astronauts at a time, and that in all of their plans for the next 20 years, that doesn't change. It's a select few, and the astronauts are amazing people, but I'm all for these other opportunities to go into space, and I think so. I mean, I think that they're making the right changes, and if they crack the nut on reusable spaceflight, it does really change things down the line.
It's very healthy competition, isn't it, between them two? Kind of Lennon and McCartney-esque.
It's. For a minute there, I thought you were going with Lenin and Stalin, and I was not going to touch that.
Yeah, I don't want to be any part of this. Yeah,
Trotsky.
It was Trotsky and
Stalin.
Maybe Branson is Trotsky, but it is nice to see them pushing one another, and I think that certainly you can see them feeding off one another. And I think it's a healthy competition too between SpaceX and Boeing, because Boeing is a stodgy old aerospace company, but they have made changes to do some innovative things with Starliner. And so I think, SpaceX is pushing them to sort of up their game, and at the same time Boeing is pushing SpaceX to, behave in a little bit more of an adult manner. And so I think we're at a very healthy, interesting time in spaceflight. Certainly, much more exciting than things were a decade or 15 years ago when you just kind of had 6 or 7 space shuttle flights a year, and that was about it.
And Eric, what would you say is this might be a tough one to answer, but out of everyone that you've been in contact with in your career so far, what would be a highlight for you?
Well, probably the coolest thing is that over the last 10 years, I've gotten to know Chris Kraft pretty well. He was the first flight director at NASA. He's now 93 or 94 years old. I live about a half a mile away from him. And so, he's every couple months I just go over, sit up in his den and talk to him. And, we'll talk about current things in space flight. We'll talk about problems with NASA, and we'll talk about sort of the history. And it's pretty amazing to have someone like him and have other people, like when you're reading about something or you have a question, you just say, hey, what happened back in 1963 with this flight or that, and just to sort of get their perspective on things. And
I bet the stories are unbelievable.
They are amazing to think about, sort of all of the things that NASA did between 1959 and 1969. It's just incredible. And the Soviet Union was doing cool stuff too. And the space race wasn't over in 1967 or 1968. They were concerned that the Russians were going to fly a couple of cosmonauts around the moon, like in Apollo 8 before NASA did that. And so, yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
I was looking at all the sort of 50th anniversaries of things that are coming up this year, and there was, the Russians had quite a few things in orbit around the moon and landing on the moon, didn't they? So it's pretty incredible stuff. But it's almost like, space flight's lost its way, and I almost look to people like Bezos and Musk as the people that are going to take it into this whole new era. And I guess that is the commercial aspect of it that is interesting, isn't it?
It is, and that's kind of the frustrating thing for me. I mean, you look at space flight and kind of the way things have been done over the last 50 years, and that's really when you get down to it, you talk to Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, but I think they sort of, when they were younger, they saw the space shuttle was flying and the space shuttle was going to open up access to space. And they figured that, okay, NASA is going to solve this problem, going to sort of get us on the road to a Star Trek-like place where thousands of people are in space, or we're back to the moon. And, and they go on to the internet and they make their fortunes doing various things. And then they come out the other side and nothing's changed. There's a space station, but the shuttle's going away. It never flew very often. And so they're really trying to change the game. And will they succeed? I don't know. But it's the best hope we have. And that's why I write a lot about the idea of reusable spaceflight, but it really is kind of the game changer. If you can master that with the New Glenn or with the Block 5 version of the Falcon 9 rocket and get a system that will fly 10 or more times with not that much refurbishment, then you're really changing the equation. And so, we'll see if they do it. I think they will, but they've got a ways to go.
Well, here's one thing I want to ask, and that's, will you please come back on again at the end of the year, and let's see what came true, what didn't, and let's have another wrap up, because I think that would be fascinating.
We can catalog all of our myriad disappointments about what happened. No, I think it's going to be a great year. I mean, there's lots of stuff we haven't talked about. The small satellite companies, Rocket Lab, Virgin Orbit, and Galactic are going to be doing some interesting things this year. There's lots of cool stuff in space science. So I'd love to come on at the end of the year and sort of see what we did and what we didn't do.
Yeah,
we'd love to have you.
Do you think China are going to have an amazing year this year? I can't help feeling that China seem to be very much on an ascendancy. But do you think that they're losing their momentum, or do you think that's going to just carry on?
Well, they had some accidents last year, and that set them back. They certainly have big plans. There was an article, Andrew Jones had an article suggesting that they were going to try to do, upwards of 40 launches this year between kind of their different providers of orbital rockets, and that would be a pretty incredible step forward. And obviously, everyone's interested to see if the Chang'e 5 mission works, and we'll see if they get that off on time, because they're supposed to launch 2 spacecraft this year, one to kind of be a data relay spacecraft on the other side of the moon, and then the lander on the far side of the moon at the end of the year. So they've got big plans. They're just like everyone else. Space is hard, and they realize that, and they face those challenges. So hopefully they'll overcome them this year and have a big year.
Yeah, 40 launches is a lot.
Yeah, that's
wow.
That's doubling what they did last year, isn't it? This is quite a lot. That's unbelievable.
Go China! I'm backing China, guys. You've heard it here first.
So, anything that really if you were to take a gamble on something that was amazing happening this year, what would it be? If something that, like, out of the blue, a bit kind of left field.
So I mean, there's so much of spaceflight requires long lead times. I don't have any big surprise. I mean, that's one of the things we didn't even talk about, like space science. But I mean, one of the big things I'm really looking forward to is at the end of the year when we get New Horizons is going to fly by, the MU-69, a Kuiper Belt object. We've never seen, what these are going to be like at all. We have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, just after Pluto, and just what an amazing surprise it was, wasn't it? That it was this beautiful object rather than a sort of dull rock,
boring, yeah, something like Mercury or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's going to be really, really exciting. I've got a question about that. As New Horizons approach, will we get pictures of that object as it approaches before? Because it's January the 1st, isn't it? 2019. So will we get something before that?
I don't know. My supposition is that yes, we will see pretty good photos a day or two before, but it's dark out there, and so I'm not sure of the exact lighting conditions. But I have no doubt that we'll get some advanced pictures of it. But remember, for Pluto, I mean, it was not up until like 3 or 4 days before that we finally got some better pictures. But before the new year ends, there'll be some photos, and then the flyby itself is about midnight here in the United States on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and it's going to be early in the morning for you guys over there. So that'll be pretty amazing, though. I mean, Pluto was pretty awesome to see, and so I'm very excited to see what's beyond it.
Yeah, and I think
absolutely.
The Japanese are in action, aren't they, with Hayabusa 2? That should be an interesting one. That seems
Japanese are doing cool stuff. The Bepi Colombo is launching on its way to Mercury this year. We start to see the asteroid Bennu that the
Osiris Rex.
Osiris Rex, yes. Thank you. And there's lots of cool stuff. Lots of cool stuff to look forward to this year that's pretty well locked in because these missions are already flying.
Yeah, I think the Osiris Rex one, I almost get a little bit disappointed because I think it only gets to something like 1.2 million miles away from Bennu. So I don't know how whether that's considered close. Well, I don't think it is. But because and then I think it starts like hunting it down, doesn't it, doing its maneuver. So I don't know when it actually gets to the asteroid. I got a bit confused when I was researching that story, I must admit.
I think it gets to like 1.2 million in August,
right?
Or is it October? And then it starts spiraling down, and then they stay there forever. And I don't quite understand why. Like they're there for 3 years before they actually try to sample it. So I'm sure there's very good reasons. I just haven't researched why.
That's some homework for us all.
Yeah.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know whether we're actually going to get to see Bennu for a while. Of course, there's Juno that is going to keep bringing back some amazing pictures. The last lot were incredible, weren't they?
Maybe if the whales on Europa shoot the Juno mission down, that would qualify as a big surprise this year.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'd love that. That would be one hell of a show. But yeah, those recent photos of Jupiter. I mean, wow.
Amazing.
Is there anything prettier than that? It's just like a swirling paint tin of psychedelic colours. Amazing.
It's something you'd find on a Pink Floyd cover for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And maybe one of the astronauts going up will grow a whole foot in space and not be able to, and get actually stuck on the space station.
This could happen. You never know.
They'll have to get the Dragon flying a lot sooner than they'd anticipated. Maybe that would force SpaceX and Boeing to get off their feet, right?
So I've got the horrible job of saying we have to wrap this up, unfortunately. However, Eric, thank you so much, because that's been such a great little chat.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Always fun to talk space. You guys have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And as we say, we want to get you back on end of the year. We're going to stick to that.
Sounds great, Jamie and Matthew. Sounds great.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, and have a good evening.
Okay, you too, guys.
Awesome. Cheers, Eric. Thank you.
The Interplanetary Podcast is alive!
Jamie, how cool is Eric Berger, though?
I'm not just saying this. I think he might be up there in my top 3 guests of all time. And that's saying something.
I'm so jealous that he gets to hang out with an old-timer Apollo mission controller.
Unbelievable.
That's just that.
What a person to go and have a chat to and get some data.
You know, at the end of The Straight Story...
Yeah, one of my favourite films ever. Carry on.
I've kind of got a vision of Eric and Chris sitting out on the veranda of one of those,
On a rocking chair.
Shooting the breeze about space.
With a bottle of Johnny Walker or something. Love that. Hey, Matt, talking of space, you know what I've got for you?
Hit me with the old space fact.
The record for the fastest launch velocity belongs to the New Horizons probe, which lifted off in 2006 on a mission to Pluto and the Kuiper Belt. This piano-sized spacecraft sped away from Earth at a blistering pace of 36,000 mph.
Whoa.
What do you think about that?
I've got a question. When you say piano size, do you mean the RD700 or a Yamaha C7?
Well, it wouldn't. Who would take a C7? Gross. And Matt, as you know, the greatest stage piano right now is the RD2000. The 700 was well old, man.
Whoa.
Where have you been?
I thought you were still gone with the Roland V piano.
For all of you looking for advanced tonal shaping,
no,
go and see your local Roland dealer today.
Stop it.
Stop this, Matt. You started it.
No, I did.
Hey, I want to tell people to subscribe.
You do.
Hey, Matt, what's new that they can also do?
They can also make their way to Patreon/Interplanetary. And to be honest, that has been the most overwhelming response ever.
Thank you so much, guys.
And we will be doing all the shout-outs to our brilliant Patreons that deserve their shout-outs next week.
And their T-shirts are going to get sent.
Yeah.
And handwritten notes.
I know. There's so much to do, Jamie, and it's kind of caught me on the hop. And so I just haven't done the things that we were supposed to do.
Well, that's why I'm here, Matt, to pull you in line.
Yeah, exactly. You know how lazy I am. So I need to...
It's true.
So we'll get all that sorted. We're just absolutely going to thank all the people that have helped out.
Absolutely.
So if you want your name read out at either the start or the end of next week's podcast, then get yourself patroned up.
Oh, I tell you what, you won't regret it.
And what I like about Patreon is that back in the olden days, with people like Bark, the only patrons were things like kings and queens. But nowadays, even the common man can be a patron of the arts and science.
Matt, are you calling our listeners common?
No, I'm calling them kings and queens.
Well, it sounds like you're slagging them off. I won't have that.
I wasn't. I was saying that now that they're as important as kings and queens, this is the new era. This is the new...
That's true.
It's like the new space age.
That's true. And I'll tell you something else. You know you said / earlier, Matt? Mm-hmm. I think we should call it an end to the podcast because, I need to...
Go for it.
I need to go to the little boys' room.
And now you've said that, I need to log off.
Oh, God. Sorry, everyone. Bye, space freaks.
Bye, interplanetary podcasts.
That's such a geek. That's such a geek thing. When I say space freaks, I'm like, cool, yeah, I'm like hip.
My new sign-off is going to be, you have been listening to the Interplanetary Podcast. Good night, space podcasts.
Oh, you mucked it up.
Sagan bless.
All right, stop talking now, Matt.
Sorry.
Bye, everyone.
See you soon. Bye-bye.